I'd like to welcome everyone to our TAT chat. And for those of you who have been with us a while, you know the routine. And for those that will be on this call for the first time, I think you'll find it informative. The information that we receive from our guest speaker has those presentations have always been timely, and I think we have another timely one. And then we have our updates at the end, and Dean will and his folks will facilitate that for us. But I'd like to turn it over to my cohort here, David Fields. He's the vice chair, which is the chair's best friend. But David and I have gotten to know each other over the years, and he's been very valuable to the board and the organization. He's a lot younger than me, so it's always good having youth around. And David's going to introduce our speaker for this afternoon. David?
Great. Thanks, Mayor Roberts, Terrence. Appreciate those kind words, and appreciate you guys letting me introduce President Davis as a member of the Paladin class of 1995. It is absolutely my pleasure to welcome President Davis to today's TAT Chat. Dr. Davis came to Furman as our 12th president back in 2014, having spent 22 years in higher education at Baylor University in Texas. She received her undergrad degree from Baylor and her PhD from Duke University. As everyone on this call knows, and many of you have a personal relationship with Dr. Davis, Furman University is a huge part of our region's health. It is a source of pride for South Carolina, for the upstate, and it allows our area to offer a nationally top-rated liberal arts education to so many students from different parts of the country and the world. We're grateful to Furman for supporting 10 at the Top as a leadership level partner, and it should be known that the Riley Institute was a catalyst for starting 10 at the Top more than 15 years ago. I'm looking around all the people on this screen, and no doubt a reflection on today's speaker, but we've got a great group assembled. And we're looking forward to hearing how Furman has faced the challenges as well as its outlook related to COVID, the impact on students, athletes, curriculum, business operations, and so much more. Dr. Davis, welcome to our TAT Chat.
Well, thanks, David, and you're looking good with your Paladin Diamond F on your lapel. It really is a delight to be with all of you today. And of course, we're so proud to have been a key part of 10 at the Top since the early days of its conception. You know, a lot of times things come and go, but I think the staying power of this concept is a testament to the ingenuity of our Diversity Leaders Initiative participants, their keen understanding of the needs of our community, and the strength of ideas that emerge when diverse individuals collaborate. We're happy to have stayed engaged with 10 at the Top through involvement with our faculty and staff, many of whom have also served as 10 at the Top board and committee members. Our faculty and students have worked with 10 at the Top to study and develop solutions such as the interactive outdoor recreational regional asset map. We could have probably used with one fewer adjective on that, but anyway, sounds like a great project. And that was a joint project with Professor John Quinn and his students and 10 at the Top. So what's going on at Furman? Well, like all of us, we're learning how to be flexible, nimble, and patient as we navigate COVID and the many challenges it presents to how we carry out our educational mission and connect with and support the community, all while doing our best to protect the safety and health of our campus. And just when we thought we had it all figured out after the fall, the numbers in Greenville and across the county, really across the country, jumped exponentially while our students were on their winter break. So when they returned in January, they did so in a situation that was many times worse than when they left in late November. But like they did in the fall, our students, faculty, and staff have stepped up and made sacrifices to help ensure we had a safe start. We have a long way to go, but the first few weeks of the semester have gone as well as anyone could have expected. And again, that's a great credit to our campus community community, but also to the careful planning of the many faculty, staff, and administrators who have been deeply committed to providing a safe learning environment that advances our students' academic goals, all amid a pandemic that is now stretching into a year. Now, no doubt you've noticed that universities across the country are dealing with the pandemic in different ways. Back in March, university leaders made similar decisions: send students home and figure out how to do everything else remotely, from classes to club meetings to mental health care. Students and parents weren't necessarily thrilled with the outcome. Remember how little we knew about the virus back then. But it was hard to complain that one university was doing it incorrectly when the entire industry was responding in kind. Returning to school in the fall looked different. Different colleges and universities had different strategies to deliver on their educational promises. Some institutions stayed completely remote. Others brought back only a portion of their students, and others, like Furman, had a phased return to campus. Factors that influenced the various decisions included state mandates, the prevalence of the disease in the community, availability of healthcare facilities, and availability of quarantine and isolation spaces. Understanding the rationale for these different approaches was often difficult for students and their parents. Residential colleges and universities like Furman needed to respond differently from large state institutions. Students at residential colleges as a whole interact more than those at large institutions where a majority of students live off campus. That means the spread of disease via dining facilities and other collective areas is of greater concern. Classrooms, it turns out, are the safest places on campus because we've implemented and can more easily enforce safety precautions there. Unlike our large counterparts, we have fewer options to provide quarantine space, which is our #1 factor in determining whether students can stay on campus or have to go home. And it's not just students we worry about. Interactions with staff, say our enrollment services office, can result in spreading the disease from students to employees. So when you see Clemson having different rules, say around athletic attendance, know that it's because we have different models of student life. Now, besides interrupting instruction, the pandemic also affected other revenue sources. In the summer predominantly, but other times throughout the year, various groups use our facilities, providing revenue streams to support the institution. All of that was lost. And while many people think that providing remote education is less expensive, the startup costs are very high. So this fiscal year budget was hit hard. You may remember that back in May, we made some hard calls to alleviate the revenue shortfalls. The most public, or at least the decision that received the most attention, was the elimination of baseball and men's lacrosse. Furman was sponsoring too many athletic teams and scholarships for the size of our institution. So right-sizing the program made the most fiscal sense. But that doesn't outweigh the sentiment and emotional attachment that many alumni have. We were early movers, so to speak, when it came to making changes to athletic programs to deal with the economic effects of the pandemic. You've seen that many other institutions have followed suit. Back in November, ESPN reported that over 350 college teams have now been affected. We've learned a lot along the way. We look forward to increasing in-person engagement and returning to the more personal educational model that is the hallmark of a Furman education. Well, until we get to that point, our faculty have been incredibly innovative in adapting their instruction to remote learning or hybrid learning. That is, some students in the classroom and others tuning in via Zoom. One of my favorite stories from the spring is about a Spanish professor who teaches an upper-level conversation course. She was worried that her students wouldn't have enough opportunities to practice speaking in Spanish. Then it dawned on her that she could connect her students to her nieces and nephews in Mexico to talk about whatever 20-year-olds talk about. And she arranged for her students to have mock interviews with Mexican companies in Spanish. Other professors found that some students participated more regularly in class via Zoom than when in the classroom, especially our students for whom English is not their first language. And several faculty have commented that the pivot to remote instruction has caused them to rethink their courses in new and better ways. And it wasn't just the faculty who adapted. Our internship and career engagement offices immediately worked with employers to find ways to provide students with remote internships or jobs. And some of those internships were actually with international companies. Well, once the pandemic is over and we've all been vaccinated, we aren't going to drop this new technology now that we finally figured it out. Although those of you who were on earlier might wonder if I figured it out since I was talking to you with the mute on. I don't know how after a year I can't figure out that, but nevertheless, apparently our students can. In fact, there are many practices from the past year that will continue. So for example, many professors use Zoom to connect alumni with students in their classes. Because of the remote technology and its common use across the country, we've been able to engage many more alumni in learning and mentoring students over the past year. And there will be other ways we take advantage of the expanded use of remote technology, including continuing to offer online components in our undergraduate and graduate courses, as well as certificate programs and other professional development opportunities. This will allow us to expand the reach of Furman education in ways that we might not have imagined. Well, let's talk about some of the things that have happened. After a brief pause, Ollie shifted online. Most of you know, but I'll make sure you know, Ollie is our Osher Lifelong Learning Institute that reaches out to learners that are 55 and older. And it's provided another unique opportunity for the students in that program who are now becoming experts in Zoom and other technologies, while still learning about everything from living well to the essence of life. Of course, there's only so much you can do remotely. And while we've been able to continue and even expand some opportunities for internships, research, and mentoring through virtual means, COVID has impacted many of the in-person components of experiential learning, particularly in our Study Away program, which has been on hold. And while we figured out ways to have music and theater performances online, we're certainly looking forward to the return of the performing arts, hopefully later this year. This spring will be busy for athletics at Furman. All of our teams, including football, are competing or will compete this semester after the Southern Conference postponed all sports in the fall. Right now, we're only allowing a small number of mostly students and student athletes' families to attend games. We will continue to grow the number of fans who can attend, especially outdoor competitions, in the coming weeks and months as conditions continue to improve. Finally, we know the effects of COVID will be with us for many years, even after the disease is under control. Today's high school juniors and seniors will come to college with a very different experience and increasingly different learning styles. The same is true for the students who are at Furman now and who are having to adjust to new ways of learning and experiencing college. It will be more important than ever that Furman supports these students by connecting their classroom learning with experiences and reflection as they grow and develop on their pathway through and beyond Furman. We do this still through the Furman Advantage and in partnerships with organizations like 10 at the Top. As your partner, we appreciate everything that all of you are doing to help us accomplish this. It was great being with you, and I'm happy now to answer questions.
Well, thank you, Dr. Davis. As Dean mentioned in the chat there, any questions that you'd like to pose to Furman University's president, please use the chat function. In the meantime, I may throw one out a little off the cuff here. Dr. Davis, my company, I guess about 11 months ago, was, I guess the technical phrase, freaking out about whether we should be closing, whether we should be working in person. You know, how do we let this pandemic pull us across the, we've all had this tech as is associated with virtual abilities, but no one ever used it before. And so
Right.
just the learning curve was vertical. What are some of the things when you guys were out there brainstorming about how you were going to take your students through the year or not? What were some of the things that were contemplated maybe that now you look back on and even that was crazy? Anything like that where you look back and say, I can't believe we almost did that, or and I recognize that's a little specific, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, but we've got some things that we laugh about with our ideas here at our office.
I have some other colleagues on the call who can jump in. They may not have told me the things that now sound, you know, pretty crazy. But when let's just take testing, for example. When we phased in our students, we brought in the first years and the seniors, because, I mean, David, you'll know this, and those of you who know Furman, you know, freshmen are on one side and seniors are on another, and they're hardly crossing in terms of classes. So that seemed like the right way to bring them in. And then 3 weeks later, we brought in the sophomores and juniors. Well, we weren't really doing any robust testing at that point. And a lot of times it was because by the time you got the test back, they could have caught it again.
Right.
But then, you know, once the students got back on campus, it was time for us to really ramp up how we're testing people and, you know, trying to figure out how we were going to do that. Are the students going to comply? You know, just figuring out logistics has been really one of the craziest things. I'll tell you something funny that you probably wouldn't think of. Our students more and more come with comfort animals that physicians have prescribed. Well, one of the things we found out is that kennels or other animal shelters or whatever don't want to take pets with people who have from people who have COVID. So truly, we had to figure out, what do we do with a comfort pet if somebody gets COVID? Those are the details that we had to try to figure out. You know, that really we would never have imagined in the past. So I'd be happy if any Furman colleagues have some notes that they want to type in about a crazy thing that you'd be willing to let me know now that I probably didn't know before today.
How about student buy-in to, you know, the changes in the policies, the way you go about your daily classes, wearing the mask? What was that learning curve like for the students, and how well did they embrace, and maybe how well did the parents embrace?
You know, students were quick to embrace the mask. Now, that doesn't mean it's always over their nose. That doesn't mean that every time they're walking with friends, it's working. But you know what? I don't know if it's a Southern thing. I don't know if it's just because we tend to be so close, but we could not get that 6 feet distance to work, right? We kept gravitating toward each other instead of trying to stay apart. In the fall, our first full weekend, so not the weekend they moved in, but the weekend after, there were some students who decided to ignore what we had said about gatherings and decided to have a fraternity party. And some large number of students got infected. And everybody knew what the consequences were. If you hosted this, if you participated, you got sent home, for a few weeks. And even though the majority of our students are not from South Carolina. They are still regional. So it was easy for them to go home, whether it was to Georgia, Florida, or to North Carolina. This semester so far, we haven't seen any mass groups getting together. And it's been really interesting because some people are underreacting and some people are overreacting. So sometimes we have what's called a Live Safe app. And so students, it was designed, let's say a student's walking across campus alone at night, right? And just wanted someone to know what was going on. That's where this technology came from. But now students are using it to say, I saw somebody walking across campus without a mask. Okay, if they're alone, that's totally fine. So, you know, there are certain things that we've had to balance out. Parents, for the most part, have been just terrific. You know, people wish that there was more for our students to do. Heck, we wish there was more for our students to do. And just like I was telling you about the differences in large and small, you know, when you can get things on social media that might show a big party, but if it's at an off-campus location, you know, if this fraternity house is off campus, well, the large institution, first of all, doesn't want it to happen, but can't really control it either. So just like anything with social media, students are seeing the fun stuff, right? As if everyone's having more fun than they are. And so some of that has been difficult, really to help balance. It makes me, I have not used this on a student, but anytime I would tell my mother I was bored, she would say only boring people are bored. And I have been so close to just wanting to tell students, I know you can figure this out. You know, I have told them you don't want 50-year-olds figuring out what's fun for you. So for the most part, it's working well. We had more students come back in the fall. So we had a larger number, let's say a little over 300 who chose to be remote in the fall, even though they could have come back to the campus. And now we have just over 100. So I think people saw, the people who were really concerned about how we would manage it, saw that, you know, we had protocols in place that would make it safe for students to be able to not just go to class. Remember, you know, the campus is their home. So to have recreation, to eat, and all those other kinds of things.
Yeah, good. I'm looking through the chat here, and a lot of compliments on what you're doing. I do see a question here that is tied to I think the comfort pet comment may have sparked this one, but it's related to the very real concern associated with isolation, with quarantining, all these effects of COVID. What's the mental health of Furman and its student body and its employees at the moment?
You know, nationally, mental health concerns have been growing across the country. And this happened at my last institution. It's happening at this one. Every time you add a counselor, their schedule is immediately full. It's just difficult to be able to provide enough resources so that every student could possibly have an in-person appointment exactly when they want it. Well, COVID is making it grow even faster. And one of the interesting things that goes across state lines is if our students are remote, there are some states that will not allow us, will not allow our counselors to provide mental health services to students when they're located in another state. But we've added some telehealth, we've added group mental health. We really have bolstered those resources to be able to address our students' needs. Employee mental health is absolutely a concern. And one of the issues is keeping the PAC, that's our physical activity center where all the exercise machines are. That's something that our faculty and staff really enjoy using, but to be able to get the distance right, we've had to limit it to just our students. So we've needed to find ways to keep our faculty and our staff engaged and really just acknowledge that this is a difficult time for everybody. One of the words that we've used a lot on campus, at least within the senior team is grace. I mean, we're trying to extend everybody as much grace as we can, because we're all kind of a little grumpy right now, you know, and there are just things that normally wouldn't upset us that are really making us react, and it's because of the situation. So we're trying to do our best to find ways to keep people safe, but also really to advance what students want to do, which is to continue their education.
That's great. That's great. I'm glancing at a couple more of these comments. It looks like more of a compliments, and so it looks like perhaps you know, you mentioned the challenges, new year, new everything. I mean, you start looking at you know, there's no script for a pandemic, for social unrest, you know, an election period that was as you know, wild as any of them, I guess. And you know, your mental health seems to be okay. So congratulations to you for that. But more importantly, congratulations to getting the thousands of students and employees at Furman through this year so far. You know, the outlook is certainly a positive one, and we're all hopeful for the vaccine and you know, ready for it yesterday. Thank you for what Furman offers to the upstate of South Carolina, to the region. You know, we preach at 10 at the Top about the idea of regionalism and the 10 counties that we that are in our namesake, and how when one does well, we all benefit from it. And Furman is such a huge part of that for our region, and we're grateful for the support, for your leadership. And I certainly thank you for being a part of this call. So, Dean, I'll turn it back to you if you want to close out with some specific remarks with Dr. Davis.
Yeah, thank you so much, President Davis, for being with us. And I do have a couple additional questions to kind of build on what David has asked and what you said. The first, you know, you mentioned that you're planning for your sports teams to come back this spring. What was the thought around that in terms of you know, competing? Some institutions have chosen not to compete at all. Others have stayed the course as much as possible. The NCAA, of course, with some championships they've canceled. Others, you know, are planning on going on. What was the ultimate reason that you guys have decided that it is important to have as many of your sports going on this spring as possible?
You know, the fall really gave us a lot of confidence in terms of what our students and the campus was willing to do in terms of safety. We also got to look and see what a lot of other institutions were able to do when it came to sports and how they reacted. So thinking about bringing back the student athletes, they really kind of formed their own little bubble. Now, football, of course, is huge and it's one big bubble, but you know, they eat together, they practice together, they live together. When they're in season, they're tested 3 times a week. And so these protocols and really following what the student athletes are doing and the coaches has given us confidence that we can do it safely and that we have the will to stop it if it doesn't look like it's going to be safe. You know, the athletes wanted to participate so badly that they really behaved over the holidays. And so they came back. I know none of our football and basketball were ill. I don't know how many others, but we tested everybody. I think maybe a couple in track we might have had to send back home, but you know, they're athletes. They want to take care of their bodies because they want to be able to compete. And again, over time, you know, we're far ahead now of where we were in August and September when the Southern Conference was struggling with whether we had a season or not, at least a fall season. So we've learned a lot. Our students have learned a lot, and so far, so good.
Great. A couple more questions. One about internships. Right now they are virtual. what is your plan, or what factors are you considering before you're looking at returning those to in-person? Obviously, we have our intern from a high school intern on here, and we were talking about, she's virtual, and we're hoping she'll get at least a little bit of that in-person experience. That's part of internships. What are you guys considering as because that's such a big part of your overall program, and as you said, one of the values you provide for your students.
Mm-hmm. Well, so Dean, right now, we can keep the percentage of our population that tests positive for COVID really low, because again, we're our own little bubble in terms of where students eat and recreate and things like that. And so while the numbers are still relatively high in our surrounding areas, we're not ready for them to go out and then come back to campus. I think even relative to just the summer internships, a lot of businesses have really figured out how to work remotely and how to give people responsibilities remotely. I think, what students are really missing is sort of learning how to be in a work environment. We know they're smart. We know they know how to think well and take instructions well, but there is part of an internship that's just learning the social norms, right? That kids really have never had to talk, or really had to deal with. Well, my daughter hates to talk on the phone. Honestly, I think one of the biggest things that she learned from her internships while she was a Furman student is just getting over her anxiety of talking to people she doesn't know on the phone. And I know it sounds silly, but that's part of that office, again, the ethos that you just have to develop that as a kid. She really didn't have to do that.
So are you guys, for the summer, are you thinking some of, depending on where things go, those interns might be able to work in person, or are you, since there isn't that same dynamic around the classroom time in the summer, or obviously it's only the first week of February, so you've got some time there, but is that kind of what you're thinking? You'll kind of look in another month or 6 weeks on what that might look like?
Absolutely. We kind of take this one day at a time, which, Crystal, I don't know if you want to comment, drove some of our parents crazy that we seemed like we were changing our minds, which was, in fact, we were just reacting to better information. We will definitely have better information, in the next month or so. A lot of it depends on the vaccine, how quickly people can get vaccinated, and especially our students, right? We know they're way far down the line in terms of what they're going to have access to. I do imagine we're going to keep some level of remote internships because, it may be impossible to travel internationally this summer, but still we can have a student who might be able to engage with a company far away for which it's going to be difficult to travel. So we've actually expanded our opportunities for students rather than contracted them. But as far as specifics go, Dean, we won't know anything for a little while.
I just want to say that I have nothing but praise for the way it's been handled. And my question that came in late was, is there anything more that parents can do or the community to be supportive? I think we all talk to each other about how appreciative we are that you do change as needed. Mm-hmm. And I know with my son, he's so conscientious around me when he's, if I see him and he has a mask and he, even just entering back over the holidays, mm-hmm. he kept his distance. I mean, he was so aware, and I could tell that the culture had supported that awareness, which I really mm-hmm. appreciated. And he's had more COVID tests.
I know.
He gets in the random draw and I'm like, yay. So I've gotten to hear positive news several times, but
good.
No, it's been really nice. And as far as internships, I know that Jake is experiencing looking now, and it seems that your thorough list of opportunities, each company has its own way of addressing whether or not they're going to be able to have something in person, but there's still lots of opportunities for both ways of doing it, and that's really awesome. So thank you.
Well, thanks. It's great to hear. And, you know, Crystal, I think if you hear things from people, you know, why would Furman be doing this? I mean, you're a better testament than I am. I have to toe the party line, right? But hearing you say it really conveys a greater level of confidence and really rationale. So appreciate it.
I'll try to keep saying it then. Thank you.
I'm going to close out with two final questions. The first one, really a response to a comment that Steve Johnson made about y'all have invested around entrepreneurship, and that's a big part of your partnership with Greenville and the Upstate. Do you want to talk for a second about that commitment and why entrepreneurship is so, you know, is a part of what you guys are focusing on moving forward?
Sure. I'll try to give you the really quick story. One of the things that we know about how jobs are going to evolve in the future is that students more and more are going to be working either for multiple companies or for themselves. And a lot of this generation wants to create their own companies, work for themselves, be able to manage their time. We know a lot of our alumni have started businesses. And one of the things we wanted to do to really bolster from a student's experience would be to help give them the tools that they would need, not just the imagination, but, you know, think about the business tools and what does it mean to create a patent? What does it mean to start a business? And interestingly, when I hired Anthony Herrera, who is leading this for us, he found out we had sort of this underground group of students. It was an entrepreneurship club, and they had signed non-disclosure agreements, and they didn't want anybody to find out what was going on. So there was really a huge demand for these opportunities, but it can't be isolated. It has to be in collaboration with what's going on in this environment, in our ecosystem here. And it's just another one of the ways that Furman and these 10 counties really can collaborate and be better together. And so we've really enjoyed, whether it's the pitch competitions that have brought in students from all over, being a part of the next facilities out on Main Street, being part of and working with Venture South. I mean, there's just a lot of ways that we've been able to engage and give students real opportunities.
Great, thank you. And then I'll close with a question that came from Adela, who is always so good at kind of looking at kind of that glimpse from things. And she asks, you know, what is a silver lining that you're taking from the challenges of 2020? We all say we're glad that 2020 is now our hindsight, you know, taking from 2020 and moving into 2021.
Well, Adela, if you'll let me, I'm going to give you two. The first is being forced to be creative and think differently. I mean, when things just are going along fine, why change, right? Why imagine doing something different or better? And then I would say another is just a renewed, what word am I looking for? Appreciation for the people who work at Furman. I mean, some of the folks, you wouldn't imagine the number of emails that come in, for example, when we say, you know, this is going to happen, or again, just trying to figure out logistics around, you know, classrooms and technology and comfort pets and all of that. And Furman folks have just risen to the occasion, and guess what? They didn't have to be asked. People have truly embraced that the Furman Advantage means every student, not generally, not on average, every student should be receiving every opportunity that's available to them. And, you know, it confirms what I know, but it's also, it just feels good to see it. And I think it's a community builder for us on campus.
Great,
I
perfect.
think that's also a testament to your leadership. So
Oh, thank you.
thank you.
Mhm.
A great way to end your portion of the conversation there, President Davis. Thank you again so much for taking the time to be with us today and for the support that Furman provides to TATT at the Top in multiple ways, as you outlined. It's been a great partnership since you know, the seeds for what has become TATT at the Top were planted really at Furman. So we appreciate everything you guys do for our organization, but also as a important part of the upstate region. So again, I echo what others have said. You know, anything that we all can do to support your efforts, we want to. And again, we thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Dean. I really enjoyed it.
Good. Well, we will move on from that. A couple comments and things I wanted to share. Justine, if you'll put some things up on the screen. First, I mentioned, but I want to formally introduce her. Our intern, Sandy Abdelnabi, is with us. She is a student at Wade Hampton High School and is learning about kind of this kind of job, and as was discussed today, it's a challenge to have interns, but we are excited to have Sandy with us. And Sandy, are you still there? You want to say a quick hello to everybody?
Yeah, I'm still here. Hello, my name is Sandy Abdelnabi. I go to Wade Hampton. I'm an 11th grader there, and this is my first internship, and I'm very excited to be able to earn these experiences.
Great. And she is part of the program, the Launch Greenville program that was started by Greenville County Schools and the Greenville Chamber of Commerce. This is the second year we've had interns through that program. We've also had Furman interns in Clemson and others. And I will tell you, it's just a great opportunity so anyone who is interested in an intern through this program or others, I very much encourage that. And we're looking forward. We have Sandy for 6 weeks, then we have another intern coming in after her, another student for 6 more weeks. The two things I wanted to mention that we're really emphasizing moving forward, a couple of things. One, if you'll remember pre-COVID, we have had really for about 8 years a regional calendar of events and things happening in the upstate. We rebranded it as Upstate Vibe a couple years ago, and we are kind of redoubling down on it now that there are events both virtual and in person happening. So Erica has put that link in the chat, but if you have events happening in your community, whether they're in person or virtual, we're also putting business events on there and things of that nature now. So we encourage you to either put your events on there or send them to us, to Erica. There is a button to put on there for an event. You can add your own, but we send this out through our social media and other networks across the region. So we really want to make sure that we're sharing all the things that are happening in the upstate region. The second piece, which is part of the pivot kind of that we made back in March, was we realized that, as a connector in the upstate, while we couldn't necessarily in person connect people or information, we could do it virtually. And we've, of course, done the TATT chats now since April, but we also created over a weekend back in March of 2020, this regional repository of information. And now with everything that's going on around testing and vaccines and things, we are kind of, again, focusing on making sure that links and information is available for people who are trying to find access to things in the upstate. So Justine is scrolling through the repository site now, but please, if you have things, if you're looking for information or you want to share information with people in your community, please be sure and let us know of sources you have, and we're using our social media to help try to share this information. That's one of the things when we've talked to DHEC about how we can help them. The more information you can get out about vaccines and testing and things going on is helpful. So that's another area that we've focused on. We are also holding a number of events virtually each month. In addition to the TAT chats, we also, we just yesterday had a workshop through our entrepreneur ecosystem group related to the PPP 2.0 rollout. We've got a couple other events coming up this month, and then through each month in the near future. So please be sure and check out our events and things happening, and you're always welcome to participate in those as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justine, and she's going to introduce our county updates. Justine?
Hey everyone. This was a really interesting one. So neat as a not native Greenvillian to hear more about Furman. My dad's from North Carolina, so I'm kind of half Southern. Okay, Amanda Munyon is with us, Executive Director of Lawrence Chamber of Commerce, and I'll let her talk for a couple minutes, and I will be getting Brittany Arciniego from Lever Farms hopefully in just a moment. Amanda?
Great, thank you so much, Justine. Thank you, Dean. Thank you all for having me and giving me a couple of minutes. I definitely had a hard time figuring out what to say today, just because there's so many great things happening in Lawrence County and so much to report on. And so figuring out what was the most important to highlight was definitely a challenge. Again, there's lots of great things happening. One of the ones that I have to mention is that our vaccination clinic opened at the Ridge through Prisma on Monday, which we were very excited about. This allowed our hospital to pull everything into the Ridge, which is a very large facility, 22,000 square feet, as a matter of fact. And they were able to do 564 vaccinations this week. And so it is tripling their capacity to administer the vaccines, which is huge for Lawrence County, and the access for the people that live here. So we were excited about that opportunity and appreciate Prisma's leadership in making that happen. And of course, the city of Lawrence partnering with them to utilize that facility. During all this COVID, we have worked really hard to learn from the lessons and continue to try to communicate virtually. And with that, we have held quite a few roundtable discussions. We have a nonprofit roundtable, and then like our small business, and it's been a great opportunity to hear from different community members about different resources, but then also needs in ways that we may be able to make connections in the community and help work towards things that may be on the horizon or may be happening at that moment as a pain point for different organizations and businesses. We also are working with the LCDC, the Development Corporation, for the Fight the Spread campaign. It's much like the Wear It, all the different campaigns that are out and about, but it's been really good, and it is on our social media accounts, and it is different members of the community doing short videos, encouraging everyone to continue to wear their mask and to social distance, all the different things that we've heard about for over a year now, the recommendations to do your responsible part and keep everyone safe. So we're excited about that. This past Saturday, PC, a big group came from for their MLK Volunteer Day and worked on our loop trail. It is something that it will be a 1.8 mile trail in Lawrence County, and it is the first piece of hopefully what will connect to the Swamp Rabbit Trail coming out of Greenville. And it was a really great day for a lot of people to get in there and volunteer and make a big dent in getting that trail started. So we were excited about that happening and hopefully connecting in the near future. It's really a great growth opportunity for Lawrence County. March the 6th, we are partnering with Greenwood, Keep Greenwood County Clean, and Our Beautiful, I believe, is the actual name of it. And we are going to be working to help clean the lake up. It's a sweep of the lake on March the 6th. It's a great initiative because we definitely value the Lake Greenwood and realize what a great resource it is for our outdoor recreation and of course tourism and the residents' quality of life in Lawrence County. So there's a lot of really good things happening. Like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just know that Lawrence County is really pivoting and continuing to work. And we have a lot to be proud of, especially under these current crazy circumstances that everyone I know is dealing with. But we have a lot of growth. We have a lot of opportunity and development, and a lot of great things are happening here in Lawrence County. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I always love to get, I've signed up for the newsletter. Anyone who was looking for good ideas of things to do, if you could just sign up for the Amanda's newsletter and you get it. And there's, I love the way you use social media. It's with all the videos that you do. And then just keeping people together and thinking of creative ways to make your community a better place, especially during the pandemic.
Great.
I love it. Thanks.
Thank you, Justine.
Okay, I think we've got Brittany is signing in. Brittany Arciniega is oh, here she is. Her farm, I'll let her tell you about it, but her farm was one of the grant recipients of the Acre Fund grant program. And you may have seen in our recent newsletter, that there was an article about how those funds work to support local farms and different neat initiatives around food. And so I thought this would be fun because she's also a professor at Furman. And so she's going to talk a couple minutes about the Lover Farms grant that they received. Are you here with us, Brittany?
Hey, everybody. Good to see you all, some familiar faces. I am half of Lover Farms. My other half is actually the one out there doing the farming. I'm the computer girl. We started Lover Farms this fall, and it felt like, I'm a political science professor, and election season as a political science professor and for everyone can be an especially stressful time. And so it felt like a good time to call our farm Lover Farms, that we were going to use farming as a way to engage with our community and connect with our neighbors and engage in what we think of as food justice, but also reconceptualizing food justice as racial justice, as social justice. So we have a 7-acre farm in Dacusville. And if anyone is familiar, we have a beautiful view of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And what we are trying to do is to engage not only in farming. So we have, we're planting beds for the summer, and we have farm animals. So if anybody has kids and wants to come out and meet our little piggies or our donkeys, you are welcome. So we have the normal trappings of farm life, but we also are trying to be much more intentional about community engagement and redistribution. So we're partnering with Soteria Development Corporation to help them apply for a grant to build a hoop house on their residential property. They have a residential facility where they rehabilitate and help 15 men at a time transition from incarceration back into society. So thinking about, okay, if we have these skills, sorry, somebody got home. If we have these skills, how can we use, I as an attorney am always thinking about, and as a professor, how I can use my knowledge and my skills and my privilege to sow justice, and thinking about farming in exactly the same way. So how can we grow food and redistribute that food? How can we teach educational classes at our farm? So we're starting to teach this coming season, starting to teach outdoor classes. I've got a troop of Girl Scouts coming. No, not Girl Scouts. A troop of girls who are Boy Scouts coming to camp at the farm next weekend. So just conceptualizing farming as social and racial justice. But happy to
so cool.
answer
Yeah, and
any
you have,
questions you might have.
you have a CSA program and also doing some accidental event venue, acting as an accidental event venue. I think that was really impressive when we did this article, was that you and Brittany and Britt, they really, someone has an idea and they say yes, and then they make it work, and then it's another aspect of their business that they can incorporate.
Yep, so we started printing underwear because someone asked us if we made custom branded Lover Farms underwear, and we were like, well, we do now.
They have a printing press in the barn, right?
Yep. Yeah, so we
Really
did
neat.
our own branded, Lover Farms designs right in the hayloft. We have screen printing studio.
It's so neat. I just thought that was such a great concept, and how you roll with it and keep creating new ideas and then fulfilling other people's wishes too. Thank you so much.
I'm going to throw my contact in the chat. If anyone does have, I know many of you may have children or grandchildren who are looking for something to do to get out of the house in COVID. And we are always happy to have kids come visit and pet our many, many friendly farm animals.
Great,
So
thanks.
Okay, thank you
And you
all.
can sign up for veggies and fruit. Alrighty, that concludes our county updates for today. I'll turn it back over to Mayor Roberts.
Thank you, Justine. Another great chat from everyone. I, in particular, want to thank Liz for arranging President Davis to speak to us today, David Fields for introducing her. And I think our next chat is the 18th. And we'll have a update from, or presentation by a couple of members from the Upstate Alliance. But I hope everybody has a good rest of the day. Have a good weekend and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.